Black Belt, for the Sega Master System, released in 1986, is a 2D side-scrolling fighting game that was known as Hokuto no Ken in Japan. The Japanese version is in fact an adaptation of the famous manga and anime, Ken the Warrior, Fist of the North Star. However, in the international version, the game has been completely redesigned and reworked, removing references to the original license and introducing a protagonist called Ryu, no longer linked to Kenshiro. The gameplay of Black Belt is quite basic, as expected from early side-scrolling fighting titles. The player controls Ryu, or Kenshiro in the Japanese version, as he moves left to right through 6 linear levels, each culminating in a unique boss fight. Ryu can perform a limited range of attacks, such as punches and kicks, which vary depending on the distance from the enemy and the direction of movement. One of the distinctive aspects of the game is the enemy destruction mechanic. With a single well-aimed blow, common enemies explode into pieces, emulating the brutal and spectacular style of Hokuto no Ken, where characters could hit the pressure points of their opponents, causing internal explosions. This feature also remains present in the international Black Belt version, although the characters and setting have been changed. The game is made up of 6 levels, each with a different theme and a final boss to defeat. Level 1, Urban Street, with enemies attacking in groups. The boss is a sort of martial arts master. Level 2, Mountain Setting with more robust fighters. A boss appears here who uses long-range techniques. Level 3, Scenario with environmental traps. The boss requires precision in movements to defeat. Level 4, a sort of fortress, with faster enemies. The boss has a more complex attack pattern. Level 5, moving platforms and mechanical obstacles. Level 6, the final level, with the main enemy, representing the ultimate challenge in terms of skill and endurance. The controls are quite simple, 2 buttons for punches and kicks, which vary depending on the distance from the enemy. There are no particular combos, and the simplicity of the combat system is balanced by the speed with which enemies are killed. However, the real challenge comes with the bosses, which require a more elaborate strategy, as they cannot be defeated with a single hit. Each boss has unique movements and attacks, forcing the player to learn their patterns and timing. The graphics are fairly basic by Master System standards, with simple backgrounds and well-defined sprites but no complex details. The Japanese version, Hokuto no Ken, features clearly recognizable characters from the original series, while the Western version takes a more generic approach. The soundtrack consists of catchy, yet repetitive chiptune songs typical of games of the era. Each level has its own musical theme, but the accompaniment does not vary significantly during gameplay. The game runs at a smooth pace, without significant slowdowns, and copes well with the hardware limitations of the Master System. Differences between Black Belt and Hokuto no Ken. In Hokuto no Ken, Kenshiro fights against enemies taken directly from the manga, such as Zed and Shin, while in Black Belt, the characters were modified to fit a generic martial arts context. The enemy destruction animations remain intact, but in Black Belt, the brutality of the violence is less evident than in the Japanese version.
Black Belt for the Sega Master System, known in Japan as Hokuto no Ken, is a title that perfectly embodies the golden era of side-scrolling fighting games. Imagine being catapulted into a brutal world where the protagonist Ryu, or Kenshiro, in the Japanese original, is the last bastion of justice, unleashing a lethal dance of punches and kicks capable of disintegrating enemies into a shower of pixels, literally. Each level is a retro fresco, featuring simple yet evocative environments, offering an increasing challenge as you progress to face unique bosses, each with their own distinctive moveset. The gameplay is essential, direct, but incredibly satisfying, as each well-aimed shot brings with it an unforgettable visual gratification. Enemies explode into fragments like a digital firework, underlining the devastating power of the protagonist. The sound aspect perfectly accompanies the action, with fast-paced chiptune music that adds adrenaline to the battles. Black Belt is more than a simple fighting game, it is a nostalgic trip to an era in which technical simplicity was compensated by pure and immediate gameplay, capable of capturing the imagination of anyone who held the controller. With its minimalist style and immediate satisfaction of combat, it remains an unmissable gem for fans of the genre.
Black Belt is an example of how 1980s console games adapted to different regions, drastically changing the content while maintaining the same gameplay structure. While the gameplay is simple and repetitive, the game offers a good amount of challenge, especially in the boss fights. For fans of the genre or those looking for a nostalgic Sega Master System experience, it remains an interesting title, especially thanks to its connection to Hokuto no Ken.